hope my titles are self-explanatory, but I'm not really sure. But I hope this title, as it stands, makes sense. And in case I change it, I should read it out to you. It is as follows. Is the Abrahamic God a divine conspiracy theory atheists refuse to believe in? What do we mean by conspiracy theory? Are all conspiracy theories false? The answer is no. What do we mean by conspiracy theory? We mean a narrative that is not the official government narrative. And so it is an alternative view of events. And it is to do with some group that we dislike conspiring to do something that is against our interests. So we have Catholic conspiracy theories during the wars of the Reformation, when after the Protestant Reformation, Protestants were nervous of an attempt by Catholics to regain control of the European religion. And since we all know that for every action there is a reaction, the Protestant Reformation provoked the reaction of the Counter-Reformation, and no doubt Protestants would say that if the Catholic Church was not in such obvious need of a reformation, then nobody would have tried to reform it. Anyway, it has happened, and during the uncertain times when the Protestant succession was not secure, there was always a fear of the Spanish Armada or whatever conspiracy the Protestants suspected the Catholics of planning against them. And now we don't really have a Muslim conspiracy theory. It's a Jewish conspiracy theory, and it is this idea that whatever bad that has happened to us, it is caused by the Jews. But I ask myself, why not blame the government? It's surely the government that is to blame, since it takes such a totalizing, it has such a totalizing effect on us and keeps such tabs on us. But for some reason, people don't want to blame the government. It's a bit boring. And when people cook up their conspiracy theories, I guess it's a way it's a way for certain people who like showing off to show off. Some people talk about conspiracy theorists as bores. So perhaps it is a case that conspiracy theorists are social retards who don't know when they're boring people. Or they just like being the center of attention, and because a conspiracy theory is always complicated. If you really wanted to know about it, you would have to keep asking questions in order to try and understand the nature of the conspiracy, and give the conspiracy theorist a lot of attention. And perhaps this is what he wants, and he wants you to think that he knows something that you don't, through your consumption of mainstream media. So what do I mean by God being a divine conspiracy theory? If you're atheist and you're a bit boring, you would just blame the government, and you would be correct. And nobody much gets a kick out of blaming the government. Probably they would get more of a kick if it was actually forbidden to criticize the government, and then you can complain about the government and feel like a bit of an outlaw for doing so. So I imagine the reason why people don't just come out with it and blame the government and the political system, but it's not as interesting as discussing conspiracy theories for those inclined to discuss these things. I make a point of avoiding conspiracy theories because I don't want to be a bore. I suspect most people are bored, and you can't really win with these stories because they're impossible to prove. And obviously, the people who dislike a certain group, dislike the same group that you do, would support your conspiracy theory unless they have a competing, for example, a competing anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, and then you'll be fighting this other person who also dislikes a group that you dislike but has a competing theory. But what if we think of God in terms of a divine conspiracy theory? After all, he did actually say in the book of Isaiah, chapter 45, verse 7, that he created light and darkness, and he created good and evil. So he's owned up to it. He's saying, I'm going to make you suffer if you don't obey my rules. So in fact, we don't need a conspiracy theory to explain why something turned out rather badly for us or our society or our group or our government. We already have it in ancient scripture that God will punish those who break his rules. And since none of us are perfect, we must have broken some rule or other. And also, there are so many rules that we could have broken, whether deliberately or not. So if we all direct our considerable intellects into understanding and accepting this particular divine conspiracy theory, then we would have the effect of correcting ourselves sooner or later. So instead of blaming Jews, we would think, oh dear, God has made us suffer by making this terrible thing happen to us because we have sinned. We broke his rules. And then we take out a list of rules that we're supposed to follow and go through them one by one and work out which ones we have broken. That is the most proximate cause of our punishment. And I'm saying it's obvious. It's idolatry, isn't it? The world's most powerful religious group is still officially Christianity. It is Christians who have acquired 3 global empires. So it's Christians, Christians, Christians all the way. Even if most Westerners are not Christian, they still live in countries that think of themselves as Christian, such as Britain, which is the birthplace of Anglicanism, even if hardly anyone actually believes in God or is even a confirmed Anglican. So we have to distinguish between a country that is only nominally Christian and then we have to work out the percentage of the population of that country that is actually Christian. And we can only correctly call confirmed Anglicans actually Anglicans. I believe I'm straying off the subject, but what I'm trying to say is that if we just blamed everything on God by attributing our own existence and the existence of everything around us to God, then we would have no choice, because the logic of it would mean that if God created, the universe and us, he must have had a purpose, and we would have to think that the purpose was benign, and this benign purpose is to punish evil and reward good. And we all want to believe that because we all want justice. And so it is logical to believe in God and therefore praise and blame him for the good things and the bad things. And I'm saying, it's so simple, isn't it? Would it just be easier for us to just think when bad stuff happens that God is punishing us and feel a bit sorry for ourselves, but resolve to not suffer anymore by correcting ourselves, and then we correct ourselves and then we stop suffering? And what is the problem with thinking in this way? I just don't see what the problem is. Wesley Curry says, Jesus has shut all LGBTQ to the comforter for the duration of December. Also shut all Islam, all Krishna. Okay, I don't know what you mean. I think people are just mostly talking nonsense. So back to my point. People would just feel happier if they believed in God, wouldn't they? So what's the problem? All the government has to do is say, from now on, we want you to believe in God, and we're going to tell you stories and give you information to make you more likely to believe in God. And this is what we're going to do. What would be the problem? Even if they told this to us in a bold and what's the word I'm looking for? If they told that to us in a direct and uncompromising way without trying to sweeten the pill, we would just accept it, wouldn't we? Then we would have a good think about whether it's a good thing or not. Some of us would feel a bit nervous about what this really means, but just doing this would be a start. And if people can't, I think people should talk about it and say, government, could you just do this for us? It might work. We might like you more if you did this thing, or at least talked about doing it. And then if you did talk about doing it through the BBC or some established mainstream media outlet, you would then be able to gauge the mood and maybe even control the mood. And so why not? The point is, I just can't see the problem. There are a lot of people who call themselves atheists, but they can easily be ignored, right? All the government has to say was that we were wrong to encourage all these atheists because what it has resulted in is high crime, widespread illegitimacy, feminism, mental illness, bitter, angry women who didn't manage to become married mothers, lonely old men who are confirmed bachelors. We did wrong and we're going to correct ourselves. And once we correct ourselves, things would get better. What's the problem with that? I think it would work. Eating crow would work. And I am positive that even talking in these terms, if the government did it properly through the proper channels of mainstream media, it would actually change the mood of nations. I think it would. And those of you who would like to see this happen should be talking about this amongst yourselves. Because if I'm correct in saying that religion is basically a divine conspiracy theory, saying God will harm us and punish us if we break his rules, then this is just so much better than the majority blaming the minority and scapegoating Jews or other minorities, or just weaker members of society, such as the poor, such as the elderly, such as the children. Because if there were no Jews around, it wouldn't mean that nothing would happen and people would stop blaming each other. They would blame their parents, blame women, blame people with ginger hair, God knows what. But the mood could turn very ugly very soon, and all I'm doing is proposing a way of managing the situation through the founding of an incipient theocracy, because I'll make no bones about it, this is what I'm proposing. I'm saying it would make people feel safe and good and trust the government more, and surely that would be in the interests of the wealthy and powerful, because I'm sure they must have terrible feelings of unease and existential angst, knowing all the terrible things they've done and all the lies they've told and how much people really hate them and how much cognitive dissonance they suffer when they think about what they're actually doing and what they're supposed to be doing. So this is my proposal and my suggestion. And those of you who like the sound of it should be talking about it to each other online and in real life.